The candles flickered along the long wooden table as servants poured wine into golden cups. Laughter echoed through the royal hall. The king raised his glass. The queen smiled softly beside him. The princes argued playfully. The queen mother watched silently from the end of the table. It looked like a perfect royal dinner. But before the night was over, every single person at that table would be dead. Everyone, except the queen. At first, doctors believed it was an illness. Then they suspected food poisoning. But when investigators looked closer, they discovered something chilling. Someone at that table already knew what was going to happen. And the most terrifying part? The killer never left the room. If you are watching this from London at midnight, or perhaps under the blistering sun of Sydney at noon, or even in the rain-slick streets of Seattle, take a moment to look at the person sitting across from you. Do you truly know them? Because the story of Queen Elara is a reminder that the most lethal weapon in history isn't a sword. It is a quiet woman pushed into a corner. Now let's go back to the beginning, because this story didn't start with poison. It started with a marriage. Before we continue, I'm curious. Where are you watching this from? Tell me your city, what time it is there, and what the weather is like today. I read every comment. Now let's go back to the beginning, because this story didn't start with poison. It started with a marriage. The queen, Elara, did not come from a powerful family. She was not born into royalty. She was not expected to rule. She was chosen. Her father was a disgraced scholar, a man who had once been the royal librarian before being cast out for possessing forbidden knowledge. He taught Elara that history is not a collection of dates, but a collection of secrets. He taught her how to read the forgotten languages of the dead and how to stay invisible in a room full of monsters. When King Valerius's first wife died under mysterious circumstances, he needed a new wife, one who was quiet, one who had no powerful family to interfere with his wars, and one who was beautiful enough to satisfy his ego. He chose Elara. The kingdom saw a fairy tale, the court saw a victim. The king married her because she was beautiful, quiet, and obedient. But the royal court quickly learned something else. She was intelligent. Very intelligent. She listened more than she spoke. She watched everyone. She remembered everything. And slowly, she began to understand something very important about the royal family: they did not trust her. The queen mother hated her. The king's sons did not respect her. The royal advisors ignored her. Servants whispered behind her back. She was the queen of the kingdom, but inside the castle, she was completely alone. And loneliness can change a person. Especially when that person is surrounded by enemies. The castle looked beautiful from the outside. Tall towers, stone walls, grand halls, gardens filled with roses. But inside, the palace was full of secrets. The king was getting older and sicker. Everyone was thinking about one thing: who would rule next? The king had 2 sons from his first marriage. If the king died, one of them would become the next ruler. Not the queen. She would lose her power, her wealth, her protection, and her home. In royal history, when kings died, queens without children often disappeared. Some were sent away. Some were imprisoned. Some were executed for fake crimes. Some simply vanished. The queen knew history. She knew how these stories ended. And she began to fear for her future. One night, the queen overheard a conversation between 2 royal advisors in a shadowed hallway. One said, "When the king dies, the princes will remove her immediately. She knows too much and has no allies." The other replied, "It would be safer if she didn't remain alive." Those words stayed in her mind. She realized that when the king died, she might not survive long after him. From that moment, the queen stopped being afraid and started planning. Investigators later discovered that for nearly 2 years, the queen had been quietly collecting information. She learned which servants were loyal, which guards could be bribed, and which doctors could be trusted. She also began secretly meeting with an old herbalist woman, Mora, who lived in the Blackwood Forest. Mora's tongue had been cut out by the previous king's guards for witchcraft. They spoke in a language of symbols and shared trauma. Elara didn't ask for a fast poison, she wanted something slow. Something that looked like illness. Something that would not be detected easily. Something that could kill many people at the same time. Mora taught Elara about the widow's sigh, a toxin derived from Aconitum napellus. It was a toxin that didn't just kill, it disassembled the body's ability to communicate with itself. Elara spent months in her private chambers, disguised as a perfumery, practicing the science of thresholds. She calculated the median lethal dose for each target based on their body mass. She refined a beeswax suspension and coated the interior rims of the royal golden chalices. The wax would remain solid at room temperature, but when the warm, acidic Momsey wine, the king's favorite, was poured, it would slowly dissolve the wax, releasing the toxin. The night of the massacre arrived. The queen personally organized everything: the food, the wine, the seating, and the servants. She insisted on pouring the wine herself as a sign of respect. As she moved around the table, she was a ghost in silk. She used a casket ring, a piece of jewelry with a hollow compartment, to ensure the dosage was perfect for each enemy. About an hour into the dinner, the first prince began to feel sick. He said he felt dizzy, then he started sweating, then he collapsed. Everyone thought he had fainted. But then the second prince began coughing violently. The queen mother tried to stand up, but her legs buckled and she fell back into her chair. The king tried to call for help, but his speech was slurred and he couldn't speak properly. One by one, they began to collapse. Servants started screaming. Guards ran into the hall. Doctors were called. The queen cried and pretended to panic. She held the king's hand and shouted for help. But as he gasped his final breath, she leaned in and whispered, "The northern keep is damp this time of year, Valerius. I think I'll stay here instead." By morning, almost the entire royal family was dead. The queen was the only one who survived. At first, doctors believed it was food poisoning, but testing the food and water yielded nothing. When they tested the wine, they found the poison, a rare plant extract that caused slow organ failure. Investigators immediately began questioning servants and guards. Many were arrested and accused. But one fact could not be ignored: the queen organized the dinner, the queen poured the wine, and the queen inherited everything. Months into the investigation, a servant revealed he had seen the queen meeting the herbalist. Investigators found Mora, who eventually confessed that the queen had asked for a poison that would look like illness, paying her in gold and jewels. The most shocking part was what the herbalist said next: "The queen told me she wasn't killing them for power. She said she was killing them because they were going to kill her first." When investigators searched the queen's private chambers, they found a diary. Inside were the letters written by royal advisors and princes discussing how the queen must be removed or not remain alive after the king's death. The queen had discovered these letters years earlier. She had acted first to eliminate everyone who planned to eliminate her. This was not a sudden crime, it was a plan that took years. The queen was eventually arrested and put on trial. During the trial, she said only one thing: "I did not poison my family. I removed my enemies." If a soldier kills an enemy who is aiming a bow at his heart, you give him a medal. "I simply moved the battlefield to the dining room." She was executed the following year. But before her execution, she wrote one final letter: "I was not the most evil person in the castle. I was simply the one who acted first. The throne is not made of gold, it is made of the bones of those who weren't fast enough." Now I want to ask you something. Do you think the queen was evil? Or do you think she was trying to survive? What would you have done if you discovered your own family was planning to kill you? Tell me in the comments. Also tell me, where are you watching from? What time is it there right now? And if you thought this story was shocking, wait until you hear the next story about the king who buried his wife alive, and years later, she came back. Subscribe for more suspenseful royal stories, true crime mysteries, and unbelievable history. Because sometimes, the most dangerous people are not enemies. They are family.